first round. They took Spencer Fano first in the first round, and then the second pick in the first round, they took Casey Concepcion, who's apparently been looking very good in rookie minicamp, which, again, doesn't mean much, but I'd still rather him look good than not good, right? You don't want to go over the top on it, but if it's a choice between he looks good and he looks crappy, I'll take what looks good. Yeah. So Greg Cosell, again, we talked a little bit about this earlier, was on my podcast yesterday, and I asked him, of course, his thoughts on the Browns' first-round picks, and here's Greg Cosell, courtesy of the bullpen, with me and Bet Rivers, talking about what he thinks of the two guys the Browns took in the first round.
I actually came away from watching his tape, and believe me, I am not an offensive line guru, but I speak to some offensive line coaches that I know well, and they didn't think I was nuts at all. I know a lot of people on social media think I'm nuts, but they didn't think I was nuts. I came away watching Fano thinking that his best position could be offensive center.
Wow.
And now, again, that may not happen, and he may end up being a very good tackle.
Yeah.
Obviously, the arm length is the kind of thing you think about. It's only 32 and an eighth from the combine. There's a reason when you talk to coaches in the league, offensive coaches, line coaches, that only 6 offensive linemen in the league out of 64 starters have arm length less than 33 inches. There's a reason for that. Now, that doesn't mean Fano can't be the exception. So, look, until the guy plays, I'm not going to sit here and say he can or can't do it. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I assume they're going to play him at tackle, right? That's where they plan on playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see how it works. I mean, look, just to give you an example of how people, the arm length issue is one of those issues that different opinions by really smart people across the board. Joe Thomas, who obviously knows a little more about playing left tackle than I do, just a little bit there, Adam, just a little bit. But, like when Will Campbell had his issues late in the season, the last 4 or 5 games, I heard Joe Thomas speak about it in great detail, and he thought the arm length issue had nothing to do with his problems. Okay. Then I spoke to an offensive line coach that I know well, who's been in the league 30-plus years. He thought his arm length had everything to do with his problems. So that just shows you there's no definitive answer to that. So I'm certainly not going to weigh in because I'm being honest. I don't know the answer to that.
I thought it was fascinating that from the tape he thought he'd be best at center. He did go on to say that he thinks he's going to be a 10-year pro. He's going to be very good. His only thought was, is he not quite big enough lengthwise, arm lengthwise to play tackle? He made the point. He said only 6 out of 64 offensive linemen. He meant to say tackle there. Yeah. That he's got short arms for a tackle, and maybe it will eventually lead to him playing another position.
And I'm going to defer to G in 1 second. I just want to add a little context. He was asked and/or volunteered, he said, she said, to do center drills at the combine. So it's not just Greg Cosell who's looking at him and saying, maybe he's better suited center. Like, he did try out different positions, He did go through drills at the combine. Teams put him through workouts at center just to evaluate what he could potentially be at that next level. And G, you know all the entrenches stuff better than we do. So what's your take on what Greg said?
I love what he said about the.
Listen, I liked the Bengals going ahead and using their 10th overall pick on, sexy Dexter Lawrence being drafted 10th overall. If I'm going to give the Rams credit for, hey,
absolutely,
everybody who thinks they blew it in the first round, they used the 29th overall pick on Trent McDuffie and signed him. And if Stafford comes out and has short fields due to, McDuffie, or is already up 7-0 because of McDuffie, then point to that and say, oh, the Rams didn't get him any help, huh? If I'm going to say that, then the Bengals getting Dexter Lawrence 10th overall, pretty darn good. I love the Ravens. They got 8 picks on day 3. We'll see what they'll make of that. I know they lost some significant players, but I loved the first-round choice. We didn't talk about it on Friday. I loved the first-round choice of Venga Ioane. And, they got 2 wide receivers, Jacoby Lane from USC and Elijah Surratt from Indiana, that should do some damage. But the Cleveland Browns, you got to give it up. The Cleveland Browns, you have to give it up. Again, what they did in this draft to go from 6 down to 9, and they still took the guy they would have taken at 6 in Spencer Fano. And then they cash in their first round selection they got from Jacksonville for Casey Concepcion. And then the second round, they get Denzel Boston. They got 2 wide receivers who are terrific. And then they go and take Emmanuel McNeil Warren in the second round with another second round choice. And he was sitting on Daniel Jeremiah's best available draft board for about an hour. They snagged him at 58. He was up there at 15 on DJ's draft board. And they get Austin Barber, a tackle, out of Florida in the third round. And the choice that they used to get Austin Barber, third round, was one that they got from Cleveland to let them trade up at 6 to take Mansour Delane, and they move down to 9 and still get the guy they want anyway. And they've got 2 fourth-round picks in next year's draft in their back pocket. But the pick of Casey Concepcion is of note for various reasons. Not only is the kid really good, not only is he one to root for, but it closes the books on last year's trade with the Jaguars. And I love this sort of stuff because, again, with the Jets asking their fans to believe in yet another rebuild, you still have to turn those picks into humans. And last year, the Browns fans are like, what did you trade out of the second spot? You could have had Travis Hunter. Mm-hmm. And we'll see what Travis turns into now that he comes back from his knee injury. And the Jaguars, with some picks they got in last year's draft trade to move down from Cleveland to move up, Cleveland flipped Jacksonville some picks even in this trade. They did get what appears to be their new starting running back because Travis Etienne is now in New Orleans. Bashal Tutin, and the Jaguars have a safety out of it as well. But the Browns moved down to get Mason Graham and Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson. 2 running backs that have created so much buzz and excellence in their rookie seasons. We didn't even in mock drafts put Jeremiah Love in Cleveland. And he wound up 3rd overall. And then they got a first-round pick in this year's draft and got Casey Concepcion. So they turned in.
What if this entire Brown season comes down to one thing? Not whether Shedeur Sanders gets handed the job, but whether he can earn it in a way that changes the future of the franchise. Because that is the real energy coming out of this clip. It is not just that Deion Sanders is talking about his son, it is the way he is talking about him. He is describing a quarterback who feeds off competition, who does not want favors, who does not want sympathy, who does not want the room to be soft around him. That matters, especially in Cleveland, because this city does not need another quarterback story built on excuses. It needs one built on toughness, growth, and results. And the strongest thing about this whole conversation is that it makes year 2 feel different. It makes year 2 feel defining. Last year, there were too many reasons people could use to explain away the inconsistency. The offense was messy, the support was unstable, the roster was incomplete. The entire structure around the quarterback position felt shaky. But now the Browns are trying to fix that. Now there is more support up front, more talent outside, a new coaching voice, a new opportunity. So when people say there are no more excuses, that does not sound harsh to me. That sounds honest. It sounds like Cleveland is finally creating the kind of environment where a real evaluation can happen. And that is why Shedeur Sanders remains one of the most fascinating players on this roster, because he still represents possibility, he still represents upside, he still represents a path the Browns have not fully answered yet. Deshaun Watson may still start the year, and that part of the conversation is understandable. Veterans usually get the first crack, contracts matter, experience matters, but even the people in this clip who think Watson starts still sound like they believe Shedeur is going to play. That tells you everything. This is not a closed story. This is not over. The door is still open, and everybody knows it. What I really liked from the Deion part of the interview is that it made Shedeur sound like someone who wants to be pushed. That is a huge deal, because the wrong quarterback in this situation would start wanting protection. The wrong quarterback would want people making excuses for him, defending him, softening the criticism. But the image Deion paints is the opposite. He is saying Shedeur wants the competition to be real, wants the practices to be sharp, wants people around him to do their job because he expects himself to do his. That is leadership language. That is not enough by itself, but it matters. It matters a lot when you are trying to project who can survive a Cleveland season. And then there is Todd Monken. That might be the most underrated part of the clip. Deion talks about being excited to meet him, excited to talk through how to motivate Shedeur properly, excited about this new coaching relationship. That should get Browns fans paying attention, because if Monken can connect with Shedeur the right way, if he can challenge him the right way, if he can structure things to bring out the best version of him, then suddenly this whole thing becomes much more interesting than just Watson starts until he doesn't. It starts becoming a story about whether Cleveland can build the right quarterback bridge into the future. And I think that is why this season feels so big. This is not just another Browns quarterback camp battle. This is a real sorting year. Watson is trying to prove there is still something left. Shedeur is trying to prove he is more than a name in a spotlight. The Browns are trying to prove they can finally stabilize the most important position in sports. And somewhere inside all of that is the answer to where this franchise is really going next. So my feeling coming out of this clip is actually positive for the Browns. Why? Because competition is healthy when it is real. Pressure is healthy when it reveals the truth, and urgency is healthy when a franchise has been stuck too long. Shedeur Sanders does not need promises. He needs reps, pressure, opportunity, and a clean chance to show what year 2 really looks like. If he takes that chance and runs with it, then Cleveland may have more than just a talented young quarterback. It may finally have momentum in the right direction. Tell me in the comments, Dawg Pound, do you think year 2 is where Shedeur Sanders proves he is the future, or do you think this season still belongs to Deshaun Watson? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay locked in, because this Browns quarterback story is heading into the part where the truth finally shows up on the field.